Hi, and welcome to Katie's Corner in Space. My name is Katie, and today we're going to go over Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Season 1, Episode 4, Memento Mori. And this is a really good one. I was a little unhappy with last week, but this week certainly made up for it. So without any further me ruining the fun, let's get to it. The Enterprise is off to Phoenix 3 to upgrade their air filtration. The colony there has been attacked by the Gorn. It's a mess in the colony, and few survivors were able to escape. Then the Gorn, having lured the Enterprise, now hunt them. And Pike orders the Enterprise towards a brown dwarf star that is tethered to a black hole. The Gorn pursue. The ships cannot take the stress, and luckily Pike is able to get the Enterprise out before it is destroyed, leaving the Gorn. Pike invents a new maneuver, taking the Enterprise away from the black hole, and that's about it. That's the whole story. All right, no, that's not the entire story, obviously, but those are the main points, and we learned so many interesting things about the Gorn in this episode. Not only how they communicate, but how they hunt. Their communication is done by light, and this was discovered by Leanne's brother way back in the day. We also find out that Leanne's brother sacrificed himself to save her, and that she's been carrying that around with her for quite some time. In fact, as everyone else is memorializing the friends and family that they have lost on ships in the past, she refuses to wear her button. But the good thing is her brother was a genius and figured out how the Gorn communicated with each other using light signals that, when written down, look quite a bit like Morse code. She's able to use that information later on in the story to help save her crew. In the sickbay, Chapel and M'Benga are just rock stars. They are knocking it out of the park using every little bit of ingenuity they have. I love how M'Benga refers to today's modern medicine as archaeological medicine, but the idea that stitches are very ancient is just fun. I wonder what they would have thought of my staples. No, we didn't get a whole lot of Una today because she's been injured. She is down with Chapel and M'Benga. The one really cool thing about her this episode was that she gave up treatment for a fellow crewman. And while you would think, of course, that is exactly what someone in her position would do, the amazing after effect is that the scene that we see with M'Benga donating his blood to save her. And this is yet another episode where I love Ortega's. She is an amazing pilot once again, maneuvering around a black hole, managing not to go into the black hole. And also, I love her need to point out just how bad the situation is. We're all gonna die, but sure, we're gonna follow orders and see what happens. She is so brave and yet so cynical and yet comically joyous about the entire situation as it unfolds. And I do like that she throws in that after they pull the maneuver, it will obviously be the Pike maneuver. Ooh, another really good point today, a moment where Spock uses the navigational system as a sensor array. They're able to walk through how and why this is able to happen. Obviously, it senses what's around anyway. We just switch around how it senses and how it's displayed. Bam, Gorn detector. And really big ship Gorn detector as well, because it's good to be specific when you're under attack by the Gorn, or anybody really. And another really good Spock moment, other than when he's with Leanne, which we will get to, is that he sympathizes with Pike in the most reasonable, logical way. He lets Pike know that the reason he feels so bad is because he values human life. He values life in general. And I love that they throw that in, kind of showing that Spock still has feelings. He's going to be logical and straightforward about it, but he can empathize with his captain. And in this episode, we got to see Uhura and Hammer interact quite a bit more than last week. And it's pretty amazing that Uhura was ready and had all the facts in her head. Hammer was going to test her. She was going to pass no matter what. And boy, oh boy, did she get put to the test. Well, I'm sure Hammer would have had a few things up his sleeve to make sure that she was paying attention and on her toes. I don't think he could have planned anything worse or more challenging than what happened. She not only had to follow instructions, but she had to try to understand the way he understood things work. He can't give her directions as a sighted person, and she can't take directions as a blind person, so they had to kind of feel each other out, and she had to understand how he saw the world. No pun intended. And again, much like Ortega's, you can see the pure joy when Uhura figures something out, accomplishes a task. She's a cadet who is excited to learn whatever it is that's put in front of her to learn. And accomplishing her goal, it doesn't matter what that goal is when she is getting something new, getting a new experience. It's just that when she accomplishes, her joy is infectious. Speaking of Hammer and Uhura, I enjoyed their interaction, how he explains his purpose in life and how he works within Starfleet as a pacifist. He's defense, not offense. And that's pretty much how he sees himself. He's there to provide what he can for Starfleet to ensure that everything goes well. He's just not going to shoot anybody, which seems like a fairly reasonable way to look at things when you're there to explore. Now I want to get to Pike here. His utter belief that the Enterprise will just survive no matter what happens. I'm not sure if it's because his future is known and he figures, hey, if I can see that I'm on a ship in the future, then everything will probably be fine. Or if he's thinking to himself, hey, the engineers at Starfleet know what they're doing. The ship will be great. I would guess he's just hoping that the people at Starfleet had a really good day building this ship and it's going to hold all together. But when it comes to Pike, even though he has faith, I always enjoy the fact that Anson gives Pike such an emotional reaction. He is not a stoic captain. He feels, he has concern, he is friendly, and he is upfront when he is upset. And again, I credit this probably more to Anson Mount than to Pike, because this would not be this Pike if it weren't for Anson's portrayal. And I'm really enjoying his portrayal of Pike, and I have since Discovery. One more thing about Pike this episode, I do like that when he had his idea for the Pike maneuver, that he explained how he came to that conclusion step by step to the people who are under him. He's essentially their mentor, and to get the process by which he came to the idea will help make them better captains, better commanders, better whatever it is they want to be when they see how another person's thought process works, and they can integrate it to theirs. How does he get these ideas? What different things, little tidbits of information did he pull together to make this plan? It's great that he talked them through it. He's a fantastic teacher. And if there's one thing I do have respect for is teachers. My parents are both retired teachers from the local public school system. He is a fantastic teacher. I want to give a small mention to Chief Kyle. It's a hard lesson to learn when you see someone saved you and is dying basically right behind the wall of the doors that shut. That's something he'll carry with him, and I think it was a small moment, but an integral moment as we get to know that character, who isn't in front a lot, but still is somebody I think we're probably going to see a little more of. Remember what happened to Chief O'Brien. He was in the background for a while, started getting brought up front, and then he was a major player on a whole different show. So I think we should probably keep an eye on Chief Kyle. Back to La'an and Spock. Now, this picture kind of bugged me for a while because it obviously wasn't to Pring, and it seemed a little too almost romantic for Spock. Now I understand there was a mind meld, and although it's a fairly intimate moment, it's by no means a romantic moment. But that is how we find out so much more about La'an, about the difficulties of her survival. We learn, of course, that she has a brother and that he was a genius and that he sacrificed himself. But through that mind meld, La'an gleans that Spock had a sister, and it makes me curious as to what else he might have gleaned from her, she might have learned from him, or how the fact that he has a sister could be something further down the line that plays into their relationship, their friendship. But when they come out of the mind meld and La'an is got a tear coming down her cheek, I oddly wonder if that's a shared tear that Spock, of course, is not going to let fall. Either way, I'm glad that the scene itself cleared up the idea behind that picture because it has been bothering me. And it was also really nice to kind of see how they interact, because there hasn't been a whole lot of Spock-La'an moments. So what did we learn from this episode? We learned that the Gorn are even worse than we really thought they were. They are hunters, they are persistent, they're tricky, and they're willing to kill their own to win the hunt. Sound like anybody else? I mean, they're even more extreme than the Hirogen. And the Hirogen were pretty darn extreme.
A long-coiled intestine. An interesting trophy.
What possible use could you make of my intestines?
Unusual relics are prized. Yours will make me envied by men and pursued by women.
We also learn that the Gorn are moving out further, which means I'm guessing that Federation space, certain parts of it, are going to be less safe, especially for colonies alone by themselves, defending themselves. It sounds like if the Gorn want a snack, they're just going to go find it somewhere else. Possibly this one adventure per episode could build up to an actual issue with the Gorn by the end of the season. And while Lan is obviously very worried, Pike seems confident that whatever comes their way, they will meet it head on and be successful. Spock and Lan's mind meld, not only has she not revisited those memories for herself, she hadn't gone through and remembered what she'd seen with her brother. She hadn't faced the fact that he had sacrificed himself for her. Yes, it was to produce this information that helped her communicate a false message to the Gorn, but the idea that her brother had sacrificed himself, I think actually having that moment helped her to get a little closure. And can we just hug Mbenga for donating his blood to Una? It wasn't what I was expecting at the end, but it's so nice to see that that self-sacrifice was just, part of his day. He's a great doctor. And again, it shows that this crew, they're ready to fight for each other. I enjoyed this episode overall. Everyone got a good part in it. Our girl Ortega got to fly. Spike had a mind meld moment with Lan. Una got stitched. Chaplain and Mbenga pulled on every resource and thing that they've learned to save virtually everyone on this ship. Only a few casualties, which we're really sad about, but it could have been so much worse. Pike's quick thinking, Spock's ingenuity, and of course, Uhura and Hammer saving everybody there. The whole thing was fantastically put together. So I'm gonna give this episode one of my fake ratings of about 9.5. It was good. It was really, really good. So what did you think was the most exciting part of this episode? I think my favorite part is going to be them actually doing the Pike maneuver. But I also really appreciated the fill-in on Lan's past. So it's kind of a tough one for me to call. There were just so many good moments. So I'm gonna call this episode awesome, and I'm gonna call it a day. So thanks so much for checking out my video this week. You always have the option to like and subscribe below. And if you like this video, don't forget you can check out that one. And until next week, bye.